what I've done here is I've put my oil paints onto a cardboard. I'm doing this because it'll absorb the excess oil. If I don't do this, my wax is going to be a little bit too oily, and I don't know how it's going to stick long-term to my canvas. Well, not my canvas, but my wooden board. And then I've taken my mold and I've put numbers here. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And these are going with the numbers that I've identified on my sheet. That way, when I'm doing my mixes and I put the little bits of color inside, I'm not going to forget while working which one that I was working on. Trust me, it happens, and then you're mixing your colors and you're like, oh, which one was I doing? So this is going to help you if you just identify your colors that you've chosen with the mold numbers that go with it. Now that we have all of this ready, you can see I've gone ahead and put it on my cardboard. The cardboard absorbed the extra oil. I'm ready to make my bigger batches. So I'm going to start with number 1, which was the turquoise with the lemon yellow. I just have to make it in a bigger batch because otherwise I'm not going to have enough to mix into my encaustic. Now I think I've put a little bit too much turquoise. We're going to take our lemon yellow. For this size of a pellet, you're going to need about that much oil paint to be able to properly tint. Now I'm gonna try to not spread it around too much because I don't want to lose too much of that paint. All right, and now that we have achieved our color, what we're going to do is we're going to transfer it into the one that we identified as number 1. So you want to scrape off as much as you can and then just go and put it on the walls of your mold, because when you pour in your wax, you're going to want to try to not make any clumps, and that's going to help just to have that base. So now we're going to go on to our second one, which was the turquoise and the maple yellow. So a little bit of the turquoise, won't make the same mistake, and the maple yellow. Mix, mix, mix. I love this color. Now don't forget that your beeswax is going to be a little bit yellow, so it's gonna affect your color a little bit. Not greatly, but it's not gonna be exactly like this. So now we put it in our appropriate spot. Try to get as much as we can. All right. Now we're going on to number 3, which is the primary yellow and the turquoise. I'm gonna run out of turquoise before this tutorial is over. I think I can just work on the same spot with a primary yellow. All right, scoop up as much as I can, put it in our number 3 slot. All right, so now going on to number 4. The number 4 was the maple yellow with a cerulean blue. I'm gonna try to find another clean spot. Not too much blue. Take our yellow. I find that any of these blues mixed with the maple yellow are really my favorites. It's just giving such a romantic sort of green or blue. I'm loving this mix. That's why it's really important to do these little testers before, because as you can see, a lot of them I was kind of like, eh, you know, I ended up really not liking most of the greens that I made with the ochre yellow. So that's why it's really important to do these little pre-tests before you go and mix a big batch, and then you end up wasting a lot of money on wax and things like that, and you end up with colors that you don't even like. So these tests are really important. So the next one is my lemon yellow with the cerulean blue, number 5. So I'm gonna take my lemon yellow, tiny dab of the cerulean blue. And again, it's going to change depending on how much yellow you use, how much blue you use, but I'm really liking this very bright lime green. So I'm going to leave it as is, put it in my number 5. Wipe this off. And now we're going to number 6, which is our primary yellow with the French ultramarine. And if this, the parchment paper gets too mucky, you can always just change it. Okay, so now we were on number 6, taking our primary yellow. And a tiny bit of ultramarine, because ultramarine goes a long way. As you can see, giving us like a nice forest green, sort of, or sap green maybe. Isn't this going to be a great color palette of encaustic pellets? I can't wait. All right, number 7. I love this color. Maple yellow with the French ultramarine. And try to retape this guy because he's moving around too much. Okay, so we take our maple yellow with a tiny bit of our ultramarine. How beautiful is this color? Oops. I think I put a little bit too much blue, so I'm gonna add more of my yellow because I really like the pale version of this. And when you do this, do a better job of taping down your parchment paper. I was kind of lazy. Sometimes I skip steps, and that's what you get, a video full of parchment paper lifting up in the air while I'm trying to give this tutorial. So pardon my laziness. All right, and for number 8, we have our lemon yellow and our French ultramarine. I'm gonna reuse the ultramarine I had here because art supplies are expensive, as you know, if you're an artist and you have spent a small fortune in art supplies like I have. I like this color, but I feel like it resembles this one a little bit too much. So I'm gonna add a little bit more ultramarine just so that I can really try to have a unique color palette. Maybe a tiny bit more. Because when you put your encaustics down, you're gonna see that the colors kind of tend to look alike. It's not the same thing as when you're painting with an actual color, direct oil on canvas. I don't know why I noticed that in this batch of encaustic I have a shimmer in here. So at some point I must have mixed in some pigments and thought that this was clear encaustic. So I'm going to just empty those in the 3 that I didn't use. And I'll do some tests later on. So you're gonna pour just a little bit in. Don't pour it to the top. This is gonna make your life easier. And you're gonna mix. That way you can really see what you're doing and get all those paint pigments mixed in with the wax. If you pour it all the way to the top, it's just gonna make clumps. It's really hard to make sure that you have no clumps left in your encaustic medium. It doesn't matter. I mean, you know, when there's clumps on the bottom, when you remelt it and you remix your colors, it's fine. But if you're looking to make these to be able to sell them on Amazon or, you know, your art store, you always have those picky customers who are, you know, who could complain and say, oh, wait, you know, there was some on the bottom. If you see it here, there's a little clump of paint that wasn't properly mixed and it gave a little deposit on the bottom. So like I said, you might have a very picky customer who, you know, tries to complain. People always want free stuff, so they find any reason to complain. So you might as well do it properly and avoid potential situations like those. And then I'm going to fill it to the top. And if you want a demonstration of what this color is going to look like, beautiful little green. Now we're going to repeat this step with our second color. And now I mix. All right, so we're back for more mixing. We're gonna do number 4. That's why you always want something underneath. As you can see, that was lots of fails in this video so far. Hope you guys are going to be gentle with me and not leave too many negative comments about my ADHD giving me a hard time this morning. I don't think I've ever worked so sloppy, but thankfully I was prepared. I want to go ahead and show you guys this color. I don't know if you're gonna see it down here, but this is this color. Turquoise. I'm excited to see how this one turns out. It's really a bright lime green. Nice leafy green. That one's. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and melt these back down so that I can show you what the final product looks like. I'm going to wait till they have dried a little bit, because if you try to transport them right now, everything is going to pour out. So you don't want to do that. You really want to wait till they solidify, put them on your heating plate, clean up your thing, and then after that, let it turning off your heating plate, letting it re-solidify. You always have to do that because, like I said, everything will pour out. So before I go and heat them, I'm going to try to clean off as much as I can off the sides, putting the appropriate colors together so that I don't waste any of this precious wax. All right, so we've cooled off and now we're ready for unmolding. Really easy with these silicone molds. You just put your finger underneath and it pops right out. Look at these luscious colors. These ones look a lot alike, so maybe later on I'm gonna add some white to one of them just so that we can actually have a bigger difference. But I am totally loving these colors and I cannot wait to put them on a canvas. Look at that. So there you have it. It's as easy as that to make your own tinted encaustic medium instead of paying a fortune for some. A quantity like this would probably cost you about 25 bucks. Today, it cost me probably about $5 to make. So you're saving a substantial amount of money each time that you make your own encaustic medium. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I enjoyed making it for you.